Hey everybody, welcome back to the Virtual Investor Channel. Paul Eisel with Michael Neiscott, and we are today going to go over deal reviews. Mike's got some good info on these here. Before I bring those up and we do that, do you kind of want to give like a little synopsis, like a couple of samples? Because we're going to be starting doing these a little more frequently now. We're going to try to do them every couple of weeks or so, or a couple of deals each time. If you want to give a little overview before we dive into it here about how we kind of go about our processes.
Yeah. So right now it's for what we call, Paul, the best time of the year for picking up auction properties, usually October through February in the calendar cycle. And we're seeing that right now. So we figured, since we're basically picking up a property a week, kind of share some of the results early on and kind of maybe come back later and what the final numbers were, kind of like a before and after, like our expectations versus what actually happened. So we'll kind of have a series kind of going through this fall and winter on that. So today is kind of like the first of those videos where we'll kind of showcase two properties that we recently won an auction. And both are actually under contract right now. So we kind of go through some of the numbers there.
Yep. No, perfect. I'm going to pull them up here so we can run through them. Not sure if you can see them. There we go.
Can you see it now, Paul?
Yep, I got it. Got it on screen.
So the first property here, again, it's in Victoria, Texas. And originally we didn't have photos, so we assumed worst case scenario. However, we talk about this a lot on other videos. There's power in the local agent, right? We were going to buy this and relist it on the MLS as is. And we did a recent deal earlier in the year in this area where we had one of our agents kind of go out there and visit it to kind of look in the windows to see how good or bad the property potentially is. So this property, we picked it up on a bank-owned REO auction. We used a private lender to fund a deal. And we actually made some minor repairs to make it mortgageable, right? And we sell our properties to retail non-investor buyers for the most point. So we made some updates to the AC and some light fixtures. And as I mentioned earlier, we used an agent from another deal already. So, reaching out to agents pays dividends over time because of the repeat business aspect.
As a matter of fact, Mike, we did a deal review on that property, which was Cuero, Texas, probably about 2 or 3 months ago. If people want to go back and look at that one. We did that review. Same agent went to this property for us, like he said, took a look at it as much as he could do. I don't know if he was able to get inside, but he was able to at least look through windows and stuff because these HUD CWCOTs, they make them a lot tougher to get inside there. Didn't want to cut you off, Mike, but I wanted to.
No, that's a good point. If you see the acronym CWCOT, it's still basically a bank-owned property the way we view it. So, but the most of the time with those properties, you probably won't get interior photos or interior access, or maybe no access whatsoever and just a few photos. So that's one of the downsides to them. So we just go with conservative assumptions on the rehab estimate. Assume it needs everything inside. So that's just a quick pro tip there for everyone.
Yeah. So
basically, these are the numbers. We'll kind of jump to the conclusion here first before looking at some of the comps. It's we thought, as is condition was going to be around 140K. We made about 1,200 improvements into it. And then we knew our max bid with the buyer's premium on the auction site would be 86 and 4K. So around, all in 90K into it. And then you add in an estimate, renovations, closing costs, holding costs from private lenders. We're just in it for 98 and change. And then after repair value, or as is repair value, really, we made minor repairs, is 140. And you factor out selling costs to agents and other closing costs, it's a nice little profit there, just north of 30K, or 32% return on your money. And what do we hold this for, like 2 months, basically, until we found a buyer?
It was roughly 2 months. And so our agent kind of managed our rehab too, found the contractor for us and took care of that. And we do that as much as possible too. And, they're getting paid on the back end. They're getting mobile deals from us, right? So they're incentivized to do it. But we didn't have to worry about the rehab process ourselves so much. We kind of put the onus on that listing agent because they know what it needs to be able to sell it to an end buyer.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's great return. 32% return on investment is incredible.
Over like 3-month period. If you annualize that, it's a lot higher.
A lot higher. Yeah.
So, here's the Zillow listing, actually. Here's the photos. Now we have interior photos, obviously, since we bought it at auction. And as you can see, it's not a train wreck, but we expected it to be. It's just dated, but livable. So that was the good news, because originally we had much lower numbers on the property. But again, as we mentioned earlier, the agent went into it, able to peek into the windows, at least, I should say. And they saw, hey, your initial max bid was too low. You could actually go up higher. I think we'll sell for this number. And they were right.
Yeah, we're fortunate with that and got a little bump in the number.
Yeah.
And,
then, this is an example of how we run comps, just so everyone sees it. We use this fancy software called Zillow that's free. And then you click on just solds. You kind of draw the area of the neighborhood here. As you can see, we're not doing a wide area. Home types, I filter on just houses only, because some neighborhoods you might have a mix of multifamily or lots, depending what town. But, and then from a filtering perspective, this was like 1,300 square feet house. So I kind of did over under on this. I took out newer construction homes since ours was built in the 1900s. And then we jump around between 6 and 12 months, just see how much data is and kind of what the trends are going. And that's our filter essentially. And then certain states like Texas here, it looks like there's no sales price on the properties, but another kind of pro tip here is on non-disclosure states like Texas, you could figure out ballpark what it sold for. Because if you just scroll back to the pricing history, you can see this price was last listed at 168 and went pending. And most of the time, plus or minus a few $1,000s, that's going to be the sales price. However, we did also get agent MLS comps, so we got the right numbers from the agents as well. So that kind of went into our final analysis before we determined our max bid to bid on this property.
Yeah, no, I mean, those are huge. Zillow, people don't realize they could get all this sophisticated software out there and pay all these crazy monthly fees for it, or they could just use Zillow, which we've been using for years. We've looked at Redfin and other stuff, and they're fine too. But Zillow really does do a pretty good job, and you can really tighten up the parameters of what you're looking for. You can see
this is actually a great example of an ARV comp for us, right? If going back to our original property, if it was like a total train wreck and we want to fully renovate it to a brand new comp, this is it. This was the 169 comp here. That's a great, they did a full rehab, and looks like, let's see, there's another cheat sheet here. What are investors buying for you in the area? There you go. Someone bought this in 22 for 60K. Nice. So another trick, cheat code here. If you're a wholesale and you want to buy it and resell it to an investor, people are buying for around 60 most likely. So, you want to be below that number if you're picking it up, and depending on what your spread and holding costs are.
Yeah.
But in our news, our property wasn't in that bad a shape and someone could live in it. And so that analysis didn't really apply to us. But initially, I think we probably used this house and we were pretty low probably on our bid. And that's kind of when the agent came in saying, hey, you could bid a lot higher. It's livable, the house. It's just a little bit dated.
Yeah, and that's really important, because that one for 60 was probably, nowhere near as good a shape as ours. Our as is, I believe he had around 130, 140 range somewhere.
Yep.
Basically, I think we listed it as the as is value. What he said the as is value was,
exactly.
Around that as well. So that's what's important. Like, it depends what your end game is. We used to sell a ton to just investors out there, and now we specialize more, and we try to find these ones that are a little bit better shape, or ones that we don't mind selling to investors, but we'll list them on the MLS. No one will be able to move.
Yeah, that's a great point, Paul. I had a local someone that subscribed to our channel had some questions. I actually took a phone call with them earlier this week, and what their aha moment for them is, they do rehabbing themselves or the wholesale, right? And from the wholesaling perspective, their mindset was always get it under contract and sign it and sell it to an investor. But they're always probably getting beat up on price. They have a limited buyer pool, and you have to get houses really cheap, like in this example, to make it work. The aha moment for them was, hey, we wholesale too, but they didn't think of it as wholesaling, where we actually, buy this at auction and then list it on the MLS as is and open it up for everybody, non-investors as well. And know those people could still buy a good house at a good discount price, but they don't have to factor in a profit spread like an investor has to. So it allows us to get more per deal on these, wholesale type of deals we did. We did put 1,200 into it, but kind of different way of thinking about things on a quick turn.
That really is. And, I'm amazed that more investors don't utilize this method to be able to, because it goes hand in hand with what they're already doing. And most guys do in a wholesale, right, as much as possible. But this is basically, we're in essence wholesale. When you spend $1,200 in repairs, you're doing no different what you're doing on a typical wholesale, because usually you're cleaning out that house to wholesale.
Yeah, especially it's like a hoarder house, right? Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So we're doing the same type of thing. We have no marketing costs whatsoever. We pay nothing for buying these properties, right? We don't have an average cost per deal. We just analyze these deals, figure out if they're deals, find out our maximum allowable offer, right? And verify it with agents. We come up with our numbers, verify with agents, or the agents give us their info. We verify their numbers, right? Trust but verify, that whole Ronald Reagan thing. We go through it and we look at it and we look at our comps. We look at their comps. We discount any comps we think they gave us that don't correlate with our property, and we run with those.
Yep. Anything else on this Victoria, Texas one, or you want to pivot to the North Carolina one?
This was just a great one. You look at the 32% return on investment. What are most people looking at? Around 15% ROI on these things.
Yeah. And
we get 15 in a lot of bars, right? But to get these 32s, to get these 40s, and some of these big ones at 50% ROI, I mean, they're just great. But so these are kind of what we're looking for. 31K, almost 32K, doing next to nothing to a property.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great to get those. We call it, we use the baseball analogy, right? It's great to always hit those singles consistently. But then when you get doubles, triples, and home runs on some of these properties, that's just extra bonus for us. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we can hit the Whiteville, right?
Yeah. So this is the Whiteville, North Carolina. Talking to me and Paul, no surprise. Again, it's an auction property. That's what we focus on. It's like probably 95% of our deals, and got this one at auction. And we'll kind of go over the numbers in a second. But this is what the property looks like. So I have it open here in Zillow. Again, you can see this is pending already with a buyer. We just got this one under contract, I think last week it was.
Last week.
Pick up some photos here. It's more rural part of North Carolina, but as you can see here, pretty good shape. Easily someone could walk into here and live in it as is.
If not, put your touches on it, repaint the way you want.
You got the old tile, but it's in good shape. Nice trim here and newer vanities. So it's a mix of updates or dated, like this picture here with the nice tan, late 60s, early 70s 3x3.
Got replacement windows in there, which is huge.
Yeah. So I mean, this is our ideal type properties, right, Paul? It's a mix of dated, a mix of new, very. Someone could walk in, get a mortgage on this property, and it's an ideal first-time home buyer property, essentially. So that's kind of what we're targeting here. And as you can see here, we listed it for $189.9. And before we get into the numbers, here's the comp area. As you can see, this is a pretty more rural area. If you think about the comp area we drew here, it's where is this one at? I must have closed it out already. Actually, let me close out here. It was a tighter area, right? This is clearly like a neighborhood here that we drew on with plenty of comps.
Right.
And that's common for a suburban area or just in the cities. However, when you go more rural, look at this. It is probably a few miles here, but we kind of use the borderlines of major roads to kind of like look at within properties. I don't have a steady hand here, so I kind of probably missed this road and went a little bit high. But you could go a little bit wider in the rural areas when we comp. And we used a similar type of filters here. We went a little bit wider just because the data was limited. So you start stretching some of your normal variables. And it's tough to make a call on these sometimes. And you see some high values here, like 290. Then you see some lower, actually sort by high to low. So you're seeing some higher values, but obviously this doesn't look like our property. So that's not a comp. But then these type of ranchers here are high twos. So it's got potential. Let's take a look at it. And then once it passes our initial filters, this is when we reach out to a local agent and they provide MLS information and just kind of local general knowledge to help us out make the decision. And let's jump to the numbers. So this is our initial analysis, and that was the quick sell BPO. So my initial gut was worst case scenario, I think we're going to get 160. The agent had a BPO on it, and that came in at 160 as well. So that made us feel good. So we knew at the time max bid was kind of like 107 there with the buyer's premium. And worst case scenario, we knew what that was looking like for us on a quick wholesale. However, the agent said the quick sale number is 160, but why don't we start a little higher? Why don't see if we could, I think we could get 80 or 180, I should say. And that's why you kind of see it listed here. Kind of a tip. If you think you're going to get 180, don't make it 180 your listing. Make it a little bit higher. That way, there's a little room for negotiation and everyone feels better that they won.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what our initial strategy was. And we're going to let it run for a little bit to see if it worked. And if it did, great. That's a bonus for us. If not, we can make quickly price adjustments and cut it down pretty quickly. That way we can move the property at the number we thought we were going to move it at. So that's the strategy from a listing perspective that we did. I don't know if you want to add anything there, Paul, that I missed or.
Not, see, we're taking advantage of the market conditions, right? There just weren't many properties available, and the agent said we could list this higher and probably get more because there's demand and there's not enough properties available on the market. So that's what we did. Mike and I were initially thinking, oh, 160, maybe we listed at 169.9 to get our 160 number. And the agent's like, no, we can push 200. So we did 199.9. We had a lot of activity. And then it slowed down a little bit. So we dropped it to the 189 number. And then we had a flurry of activity and got the offer here.
Yep. And I'm just highlighting the green down here. This is what we're under contract for. They came in at a lower number. And I think we ended up like splitting the difference on this one or something like that. That's how we came up to the 182.5 essentially. So that's what's under contract. So that extra juice here isn't reflected in this number, obviously. So everyone could do the math and add another 20K into it, basically, on what an anticipated profit could be.
Yes. And one thing we did on this, we sent a cleaner in. She did a high level clean because that pet odor smell in this house.
I remember that. Yeah.
Right. So I cleaned the baseboards, cleaned the floor, and that definitely helped quite a bit alleviate it. I think we had a minor repair of the AC unit. Didn't need much. It was pretty expensive. And then that helped too.
So again, what you're saying, Paul, is I spent a few thousand on these cleaning things and minor AC repair, right, to get that right mortgage buyer. Right. And my ROI on that rehab estimate of a few grand got me probably 10x, like another 20K potentially in sale price.
Totally. Yeah. Completely.
I just wanted to highlight what you said, so in case anyone missed that's kind of like my main takeaway there is be thoughtful and strategic on the renovations to get that extra dollar value, because sometimes it's not worth it. Like, hey, I'm going to drop 10K and I can only maybe get 10K more in price. Well, you're net zero there. Is it worth the extra time and holding cost then at that point? But totally. This time was a little bit different because the return was so much greater from those minor enhancements.
Completely. And a lot of people get caught up, and we all do when we first started in this business. You want to make it look nice, and people rehab, and maybe you rehab more than they need to. You have that time where you have diminishing returns, right? Where you're adding so much more into it, but you're not getting that value out, right? Let's say, for instance, in Florida, it used to be you put in a pool, you only got 50% of that value when you sold it. Now, because pool prices went up so much and COVID happened, you put in a pool and you get the value that you put into the pool. So that's a rarity. But, look at a deck and those kind of things. You're not going to get the same return as what you put in it. So our philosophy is pretty simple. Let's get it mortgageable. We have low inventory and we have high demand for people who want to buy properties, especially affordable housing like this. So put as little into it to get as much value as we possibly can. And the agents get that. They know it. They see what's moving in this market. And it isn't like 2009, 10, 11, where you had to rehab a property in a really nice shape to get somebody to buy it.
Yeah.
So these are two great examples here.
Yeah.
Two great examples. And that's all the numbers we have on that, right? So we're roughly going to be in the upper 40s on this one. I believe it's around 49 and change on this one.
Which makes sense if you just do the high level math, right? You added some renovations here that we didn't originally have, and we got another 22 and 5 more, and you just add another 20 to this number, which is 49 basically.
Exactly. So these are two examples. We have quite a few more we have in a pipeline. Since we're always picking up more and more deals. I think we just got another one under contract there in Michigan.
Yeah, it was Monday morning actually of this week. Yeah, so
just got another. This is, like Mike said earlier, this is the time of year you buy. We're in early November now, middle November. So now until February, we're going to have pretty good buying time here for the online auctions. And, with more and more inventory coming out, next year should continue to be pretty solid going throughout. And if rates stay stable or drop a little, I think we'll have nice demand and a good spring market again here too. And we're hoping and anticipating it to be somewhat similar to what it was last spring, which was, less demand than the year before, but still solid demand and not enough inventory. And inventory is still, the biggest factor we have here.
Yeah.
Any new insights on market data? Have you seen anything recently that's changing your thoughts on anything?
No, I mean, we pivoted months ago to stick more to the affordable housing kind of niche, within the FHA limits in your local market, because the demand's always going to be there for that type of house. And that's kind of been working for us, sticking to our buy box basically.
Yeah. And then don't deviate from your buy box when it's working well and you got enough inventory and you can keep doing it, do it. If you start going in different directions, and we did a couple of times as the market was heating up, we bought higher end properties that we don't normally buy. And those were a little more difficult for us to get rid of than the other ones. So we're like, all right, let's just stop that. go back to our normal buy box that's been working for so many years, right? 10 plus years, 15, 20 years, actually, since I've been doing it. It's been that affordable housing thing. And that's what is the most demand. And with rates gets affected the least, right? Because your payment isn't affected nearly as much as a higher end property is. So I think we're in a pretty good place there. Some of the asset-based lenders out there are being a little more, little less cautious and a little more, they see more opportunity next year. So I've been talking to a couple of them and they're opening things up a little bit more. There's some better programs that are coming out and the rates have just dropped recently over the past couple of weeks. And this is all bodes well for us as investors here.
Yeah.
And for anybody who's interested and wants to learn more about our program, I have a streaming on the bottom here, reoauctionacademy.com. Visit that. You click on, I think, go on a webinar that we have, if I'm not mistaken there, Mike.
And if something you like, keep clicking, and then you'll eventually get a course that kind of walk you through what we do. If it's another tool you want to add to your acquisition toolbox.
Yep. And we teach you all kinds of things. We teach you how to find the right agent, the right title companies. And we use a couple of different national title companies to make things a little more simple. Insurance company that we use, a national insurance company. We try to make things simpler. So join our program and you'll get all those little added benefits there. And if you join the higher level program, you're going to get the VIP buyer access where you're going to have waived buyer deposits. You want to have the bid deposit on certain different auction platforms when you're buying, which is a huge bonus because then you're not tying up $5,000, $10,000 in capital to bid on all these different properties, right?
Yeah, it's a great point right there. We don't have that credit card hold tie up, basically.
Exactly. All right, if we got nothing else here, we got Thanksgiving week coming up next week. So we'll probably still picking up more because the auctions still run early next week. So we hopefully will be picking up more properties. Then in a couple of weeks when we get back here, we will be reviewing a couple other different deals. We do have some more under contract. One that's supposed to close either tomorrow, Friday, or Monday that Mike and I have been working on there in Odessa, Texas. So we'll give you the review on that one as well.
Yeah. And if you have any questions, just put them in the comments section below, and then we could cover a more specific topic for you on the next call.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We'll catch you in the next one.